What's the process flow involved in 3D printing? Before going into my slides, I want you to visualize about 3D printing for a minute. What does a 3D printer do? It simply manufactures an object that you give as the input. What's that input file? Some sort of a digital file with 3D geometry. How do you arrive at that 3D geometry? That is the starting point of this process flow. Now, there are only two ways to create a digital 3D geometry. Number one, if there's an existing physical object, 3D scan it. A good example is in the healthcare industry, CT scanning, 3D X-rays, MRI, etc. Or maybe 3D scanning myself to be printed as a miniature. Number two, if it's an idea you have, pick a CAD software and design it. Example, designing this camera. Most likely, after scanning, you will need to touch up that file in a design software. So the design stage is kind of unavoidable. Now that we have a 3D geometry file ready, we can pass it on to a 3D printer. But your 3D printer wouldn't understand this geometry as it is. So there's an intermediate setup stage where we define certain data like what material, density, quality, etc. This is called 3D slicing. Once sliced, that resultant file is given to a 3D printer, which kind of automatically manufactures your part. So that's the workflow involved in 3D printing. Now, scanning has very specific use cases and isn't as popular as designing. So the average workflow boils down to design your idea, slice it, and 3D print it. Let's design a simple part quickly, 3D print it, and see how the process flow works.